In fact, I can tell you that Robert and Gouverneur Morris and Alexander Hamilton saw some opportunity here. They've been hinting around that, people like George Washington, they think he's a pretty good leader. And maybe that guy could sort of take over a little bit and he could solve some of these problems. Washington had received a letter from one of his junior officers saying, "George, go for it. Just become the king. Take it over. All of this Republican nonsense is so much nonsense. We can't solve our problems." And Washington, well, I think that's probably not a very good idea. I don't believe in that sort of thing. And we're going to get to George Washington and his attitudes here in just a moment. February 13th, one day after the news of peace, Alexander Hamilton wrote a letter to Washington. And it was delivered, by the way, within about 4 or 5 days. You could use messengers to get these things through. He urged Washington, and I quote, to take direction of the Army's anger. He asked Washington to, quote, guide the torrent and bring order, perhaps even good, out of confusion, end quote. Hamilton implied the show of force by the Continental forces would, quote, operate on those weak minds which are influenced by their apprehensions. He suggested that some demonstration of force on the part of the Continental Army, that is, taking the Army in the field, maybe march over to Rhode Island and show those folks a thing or two, And the point is that he's saying, take the Army in the field, use the Army against the civilian population, scare them into doing what? Giving the power of the purse to the Continental Congress. Now that's a very, very dangerous thing to do in a republic, is to turn the Army loose on the civilian population. Republics don't operate that way, unless they happen to have banana before their name. Oh, good, you got that one. I slipped that in there. I better get off the banana jokes right now. All right. Anyway, the point is, the idea is to use the Army to scare the population into strengthening the national government. Washington received this letter. He wrote back to Hamilton in a fairly polite way in which he said, no, thank you. I'm not interested. I'm not going to do this. This is wrong. It will upset everything we have fought for. Of course, Hamilton and Morris weren't excited by that particular letter, but in fact, Washington actually wrote in early March of 1783, we are about to enter, quote unquote, the gulf of civil horror in this republic, because he's concerned about losing control of the Continental Army.